You've noticed it, haven't you? The exhaustion that comes after you try to explain what you see? The way your energy drains when you defend your path to people who were never meant to walk it. There's a reason for that. And tonight, we're going beyond the surface of spiritual courtesy into something the ancient texts kept hidden. Something about silence, about the monad, about what happens when you finally stop justifying the light you carry. This isn't theory. This is operational knowledge that was removed from the councils, erased from the codices, because it makes you untouchable. If you felt the pull to stop explaining yourself, to stop performing your awakening for an audience that doesn't recognize divinity when it's standing in front of them, then you're already hearing it. The monad is responding. And if this lands in your chest like a key turning, type the word sovereign below. Let that be your marker, your declaration, and stay close, because what follows is not for the distracted. The word monad doesn't appear in your Sunday school lessons. It was systematically removed. The monad is the indivisible source, the one, the unmanifested totality before it's split into the illusion of separation. In the Gnostic texts, suppressed and buried for centuries, the monad is described as the silent depth, the unknowable Father, pure consciousness before it took form. And here's what they don't want you to understand. You are an emanation of that, not a servant, not a sinner begging for scraps of grace. An emanation, a fractal, a holographic expression of the one intelligence. Jesus himself pointed to this. In the Gospel of Thomas, saying 3, he tells them, "The kingdom is inside you and outside you. When you come to know yourselves, then you will be known. But if you do not know yourselves, you dwell in poverty." That's not poetic language, that's instruction. The kingdom isn't a location, it's a frequency, and you access it by remembering what you are, not by asking permission from someone who forgot. But you've been trained to do the opposite. You've been trained to explain, to justify, to translate the untranslatable into language that makes people comfortable. And every time you do that, you diffuse your signal. You scatter your light, trying to convince someone in a lower resonance that your experience is valid. And the monad, that silent source within you, withdraws. Not as punishment, but as recalibration. Because the monad does not argue, it does not defend, it simply is. Let's go back to your own life. Think about the last time you tried to explain a spiritual insight to someone who wasn't ready. Maybe you shared a download you received, a synchronicity, a moment of gnosis, and they looked at you with pity or skepticism or that patronizing smile that says, "That's nice for you." And you felt it, didn't you? That immediate regret, that sense that you just gave something sacred to someone who treated it like entertainment. That's not guilt, that's your system recognizing misalignment, your inner monad pulling back because pearls were just cast before swine, and you knew it the moment it happened. Here's what's really occurring in those moments. When you're in explanation mode, you're operating from the fragmented self, the egoic personality that still believes it needs external validation, the part of you that thinks if you can just say it right, frame it correctly, use the perfect analogy, then they'll get it. But the monad doesn't work that way. The monad responds to resonance, not rhetoric. It responds to alignment, not argument. And the moment you stop trying to prove your path, you stop leaking power. This is in the Nag Hammadi texts. The Apocryphon of John describes the monad as the invisible spirit, the one who is pure light, into which no eye can gaze. It doesn't seek acknowledgement. It doesn't need witnesses. It emanates. And those who are capable of receiving that emanation will feel it without a single word being spoken. Everyone else will walk past you like you're invisible. And that's not failure. That's filtration. You've been taught that love means making yourself digestible, that spirituality means being relatable,
that awakening should come with an elevator pitch. But the Christ consciousness, the monad awareness, the divine spark within you, it doesn't translate down, it pulls up. And the people who are meant to rise with you won't need a dissertation. They'll feel the hum. They'll recognize the frequency. And the ones who don't, no amount of explaining will ever bridge that gap. Now let's go deeper, into the mechanics. When you stop explaining yourself, 3 specific things happen. And these aren't metaphors. These are shifts in your energetic architecture that the ancient mystics documented long before modern spirituality turned awakening into a performance. First, your field stabilizes. Every time you argue for your reality, you introduce doubt into your own system. Not consciously, but the act of defense implies there's something to defend against. It implies your truth is up for debate, and your subconscious, which is far more powerful than your reasoning mind, registers that as uncertainty. So it destabilizes your manifestation frequency. It scatters your focus. And the monad, which operates in perfect singular clarity, cannot fully anchor in a field that's constantly negotiating with external opinion.
When you stop explaining, you stop negotiating, and your field locks in. This is what the mystics called recollection, gathering your scattered energy back into singularity. The monad responds because now there's a stable receiver, a clear channel. You're no longer static, you're signal. Second, you become invisible to interference. This is the part that sounds strange until you experience it. There are forces, both human and non-human, that feed on your need for validation. Thought forms, egregores, the collective unconscious resistance to awakening, and they're attracted to explanation energy because explanation energy is doubt dressed up as teaching. It's a crack in your sovereignty. The moment you stop offering your inner world up for inspection, you stop being a target. You become what the Hermetic texts call the sealed vessel. Nothing gets in that isn't aligned. Nothing gets out that isn't intentional. Third, and this is the one that changes everything, the monad begins to act through you instead of being interpreted by you. When you're explaining, you're translating the infinite into the finite. You're taking direct gnosis and filtering it through language, through concept, through the limitations of the thinking mind. And in that translation, you lose the transmission. But when you stop explaining, you stop translating. And the monad doesn't need translation. It moves as presence, as action, as knowing that bypasses the entire linguistic structure. People will feel you before you say a word. Synchronicities will accelerate because you're no longer second-guessing the guidance. And the right people, the ones who are coded for the same frequency, they'll appear without effort. Not because you convinced them, but because the monad in you recognized the monad in them, and the resonance did the rest. Take a slow breath. Place your hand on your chest. Feel the rise and fall. This is where the monad speaks, not in the noise of justification, not in the performance of wokeness, but in the quiet certainty beneath the words. And if you've been feeling the pull to go silent, to withdraw from the need to be understood by people who aren't asking the real questions, trust that. That's not isolation, that's initiation. The Gospel of Philip, another suppressed text, says this: light and darkness, life and death, right and left are brothers of one another. They are inseparable. Because of this, neither are the good good, nor the evil evil, nor is life life, nor death death. What does that mean? It means duality is the illusion. The monad is before the split.
And when you stop defending one side of the duality, when you stop explaining light to people still arguing about shadows, you step out of the entire game. You stop being a participant in the illusion and become a witness to it. And from that witnessing place, the monad moves freely. You don't need to explain your authority because your presence is the explanation. You don't need to justify your path because the results speak in frequencies words can't touch. Now here's the part they really don't want you to know. The reason the church removed these texts, the reason the councils burned the libraries. When enough individuals stop explaining themselves and anchor in monad consciousness, the entire control structure loses power. Because control requires your doubt. It requires your need for approval, your willingness to shrink so others feel comfortable. And the moment you stop offering that, the system has no leverage. You're not rebelling, you're not fighting, you're simply withdrawing your energy from the game. And that's the most dangerous thing you can do to a system built on extraction. Because you can't tax silence, you can't regulate presence, you can't monetize someone who stopped performing. If you're still here, if you felt every word of this like it was written in your cells, then you know what comes next. You stop auditioning, you stop translating, you stop diluting the transmission to make it comfortable for people who aren't ready to burn. And you let the monad respond through the life you live, not the explanations you give. This is just the beginning. There's deeper knowledge coming, practices the mystics used to anchor this frequency permanently, techniques to seal your field so completely that interference becomes impossible. And if you want to walk this path all the way to the end, stay connected, because what's coming isn't for the curious, it's for the committed. You are the monad remembering itself. Act like it.